Thank you all. So the thing is, when you throw a party, you never really know if anyone's going to come or not, you know. And nobody really knew. We decided when Ban Ki-moon invited all the world leaders to come to New York to talk about climate, a few of us said, we've sort of seen this story a few times before. The world leaders get together, world leaders issue fine statements, world leaders go home. Perhaps we shouldn't leave them to their own devices this time. Perhaps we should invite ourselves as well. And so everybody went to work. Now, I haven't done any of the work to get this thing done. Some of it's been done by people like 350 NYC, who are amazing organizers. The bulk of it's been done by the environmental justice community in and around New York. You know, leaders like Eddie Battista and Elizabeth Yampierre and Thomas Garduno, and all the people who basically have been, you know, dealing with things like what happened after Hurricane Sandy. So, you know, Wall Street was back up and running in 3 days, but the Rockaways not so much. And they're people who've been working really hard and who have a really firsthand sense of what it is that's going on. A sense that, you know, around the world now we get someplace every single day. One of the things we're going to do tomorrow when we're out on this march is stop, fall silent for a couple of minutes of silence to remember the people who've already suffered a great deal from the biggest thing that human beings have ever done. And every day now, there are people around the world who fall into that category. Right now, today, metropolitan Manila is mostly underwater. They're having their 4th or 5th horrible flood in the last few years. Right now, in Kashmir in northern Pakistan, they're digging out from crazy, crazy flooding. The 4 biggest floods in Pakistani history have happened in the last 5 years. Right now, no matter where you are, there are examples close to hand. In our own country, today they're fighting 12 or 13 huge wildfires in California in the midst of the hottest year ever recorded in California, in the midst of a drought so deep that they say now, scientists last week told us that they'd lost 63 trillion gallons of groundwater, had evaporated. It took enough weight off the crust that Sierra Nevada jumped a ½ an inch last year. The changes we're working in this world are on a huge scale. And the horrible part is, we don't need to be doing it. I mean, if we had absolutely no choice, then I don't know what we'd do. But we have every choice that there could be. Some of you opened the New York Times on Monday, I think, and saw the excellent piece about what's happening in Germany. About the fact that the Germans, the one country that have really taken this seriously, there were days this summer when 75% of their power came from solar panels within their borders. And this is Germany. I mean, this is not, you know, California or Texas or Nevada or Arizona. It's Germany. They do not have much in the way of sun. What they have a lot of is political will. That's why there are more. That's why there are more solar panels in Bavaria than there are in the United States. And that should be a mark of shame here, because the 350 NYC crew is correct. The U.S. does need to lead. If you take all the carbon dioxide molecules up in the atmosphere, most of them come from the United States. We're the biggest source. They're made in the USA. And even though China is now producing a lot of CO2, that'll still be true in 2030. Most of the CO2 in the atmosphere will have originated here. And that puts upon us a special obligation to do something about this, especially since the people who are suffering the most and the hardest are in places that did nothing to cause the problem that we're in. It's such a pleasure to see our global climate ambassadors here. they're providing great leadership, and let me tell you that back home from all the places that they come from, this march is already well underway. Now, there are 2,900 solidarity marches in 170 countries going on this weekend around the world. And those pictures have begun to flood in. I was just looking at them on the computer, tweeting them out, and they're astonishing to see, one after another. Some of them come from the places you'd expect that are wonderful, the places that have always done the right things, Stockholm and Oslo, where we all, Norwegians, the world would be a, better place and work correctly and so on and so forth. But most of them are coming from the places that are suffering and that are doing just amazing job. Goshen, there were huge pictures out of Istanbul and Ankara, big crowds. There were huge pictures of big rallies today in Hyderabad and Delhi, in Dhaka in Bangladesh. Some that just come in as I was coming in here were from Goma in the Congo. Now, Goma's in that district in the Congo that's just been in the center of civil war after civil war, where the worst kind of fighting and brutality and things has been going on for years now, a tough place, and that there are people there who have the energy and the spirit to be taking on this greatest of global problems should be a great inspiration to all of us. What we have that nobody else has, in a sense, is leverage, okay? If you're in the Congo, you can do the right thing and you can appeal to our conscience, but you cannot by yourself have much impact on the outcome because, there's way more money in those New York City pension funds than there is in the whole GDP of, cities and towns and places like the Congo. They cannot take a train for 10 stops and be at the center of the world's financial capital. They can't get on the Amtrak and in a couple of hours be at the headquarters of the world's sole superpower. We can do all that, and therefore we must do all that. It's both our privilege and our obligation to do those things. And so that's why it's going to be fun tomorrow. Now, we had really hoped when we announced this that this would be the biggest climate demonstration that there had yet been, and the biggest that before was, 75 or 80,000 people in Copenhagen during the last summit. We got to 100,000. Well, it's very clear now that we're going to have twice 100,000 and probably quite a bit more out there. There are bus upon bus rolling in from every place around the eastern half of the country. The climate train arrived today from California. So good to see. I had a talk today with one of my friends who's an organizer in Massachusetts, and she was halfway in tears. She said they run out of buses in Massachusetts. We could have put 500 more people on buses, but there were no buses for them to go on. And that's a good sign. It means that everybody's going to have to be calm and patient tomorrow morning. It's going to be more or less controlled chaos out on Central Park West with, I think, an emphasis on chaos. And everybody it's going to be beautiful. I was out in Bushwick yesterday, out in one of these 3 or 4 warehouses out there where they've been doing, young people doing unbelievable artwork. Wait till you see the kind of floats and signs and parachutes and so on and so forth that there are out there. It's magnificent. It's like, it's going to make the Macy's parade look like nothing. It's a good thing. And we're going to be joined by some leaders, it was really good news, really beautiful news to hear that Ban Ki-moon was going to come out and march with us. And more power to him. That is unusual. The Times story that put it said it is not usual for the Secretary General of the UN to take part in mass public protests. So that's a sign of just how dire this situation is. Because the trouble we've seen so far comes when you increase the temperature of the Earth 1 degree Celsius. That's how much it's gone up so far. But we are on a track to send that temperature up at the current sort of way of doing things, and Lester Brown will tell us more about this, but up 4 or 5 degrees in the course of this century. Celsius, that's 8 or 9 degrees Fahrenheit. If we do that, we can't have civilizations like the ones we've known. There's just no possibility. They won't be able to grow the food to support them. This is the biggest thing that human beings have ever done by far, so it demands the biggest response we can possibly get. Tomorrow is one day in the life of a movement. It does not solve this problem tomorrow, okay? Tomorrow is a day to sound the alarm. There are not going to be any speeches tomorrow, which I think is highly okay. You know, people said to me, oh, but what about, you know, like the great speech that Dr. King gave in 1963? It's like, yes, that was a good speech, and can you name any others in the years since? I think that may have been the exception that proved the rule. There won't be any speeches, but there will be noise. At 1 o'clock, I think, or thereabouts, we're going to fall silent for that couple of minutes and remember the victims of this, and then we're going to make as loud a noise as we can. If you are a trumpeter, bring your trumpet. If you are whatever thing you specialize in that's noisy, bring it with you, okay? There you go, there you go. And, you know, New York is a noisy place, and nobody likes noise pollution, and it's sort of horrible when the car alarm goes off in the middle of the night for no particular reason, and on and on and on. But this is not like that. This is not like the smoke alarm when the bacon is burning or whatever. This is the smoke alarm when the planet is on fire. This is the burglar alarm when someone is stealing our future, okay? And the someone that is stealing our future are those very corporations that we need to divest from. They are rogue companies. They are rogue companies that are willing to raise the sea level and turn it acid simply to make a little more money. It's a bad business decision, and it's an impossible moral decision to keep investing in them. It'll be a very good thing when we're done with that, and I think we will be soon. And New York City in the lead, just as it was when the question was around apartheid and divestment 30 years ago. The last thing I want to say is just what a pleasure it is finally to see the real diversity of this movement come out, okay? Now, this looks, the leadership here has come, as I say, from the environmental justice community, come from people all over the world. This in the end isn't even really an environmental issue, you know? It's much, much bigger than that. This goes very centrally to the idea of how we're going to live and how we're going to organize power in our societies, and it is so good to see those societies standing up. And God, I hope it's in time. You know, if I was a great organizer, I would just leave you with completely rousing. I can't honestly completely do that. It's no guarantee that we're going to win this fight. We've waited very long to get started, and the science is dark. But we're not going to stop global warming. The temperature's already gone up, and it's going to go up some more, and it's going to be a difficult century. The question is, will it be an impossible one? And that is within our grasp, we think, still to determine. But it will take extraordinary effort on all of our parts. One of the things that will make that effort possible, I mean, here's the thing. It's not that people don't know about climate change. At this point, almost everybody in their gut knows that something is very wrong. Okay? It's that it seems so big and we seem so small in its face that it's easy to just fall into a kind of despair and then not want to think about it and imagine that there's nothing that we could do to matter. And as individuals, there's really not that much at this point anymore that we can do to matter. You should definitely change your light bulbs. I have changed all my light bulbs. Sue has changed them once again. We went to compact fluorescence, and now we're on LEDs. We're just, and whenever they invent next, we will put in also. But we're not under the illusion as we do that we're solving global warming that way. At this point, can't solve it that way. It is a structural, systemic problem rooted in the political power of the richest industry on earth and their ability to keep sensible policy from being enacted. They have all the money. Exxon made more money last year than any company in the history of money. We are not going to match them dollar for dollar. We have to find different currencies to work in, the currencies of movements. Passion, spirit, creativity, warm bodies. That's our biggest function tomorrow, to be out there and demonstrating to the world just how many of us care about this issue. To tell our leaders that if they're scared of fossil fuel money, they should be scareder of us, okay? And this is starting to happen. This is starting to happen. This is starting to happen, and it will happen far faster the more people we get out there. I'm rambling, so I'm going to stop. We have to go off. Sue and I, we're due on the other side of town. Our Vermont Senator Bernie Sanders is, we're doing a program down over there. I will give him your greetings. Tomorrow, enjoy. It's going to be a really important day, and you're going to be a really big part of it. God bless.